What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? I'm the Crypto Crow. I'm live right now. I should have done I should do those things that hold on. Trying to figure out how to get this all set up with the chat, with the live chat, so I could start going live with this system again. I like watching the steady flow of the chat as opposed to just picking individual things here and there. We're live now. My chat's not working though, so I want to figure out. So hitting licks. Are you on YouTube or are you on Twitter? Let me see, because you should be appearing here. Yo Crow, what's up, Robert? I see some of you guys popping in. I really want to get I haven't been able to get this working in so long. And nothing's popping up here. I wonder, ooh, who wrote the book of love? How's my audio? Is my audio okay? YouTube live, my boy. Yes, I'm live. Shout out Antonio. What's going on? Was just watching the Sui Ada video. Yeah. I really want my chat. I want you guys to be able to see yourselves chatting and talking. It's just for whatever reason, these settings are not working. And there's really no reason why it shouldn't be. I haven't been live just to hang out at night in a while. So I figure why not? I wonder if I add, let me see here. I'm going to experiment a little bit while you guys are getting notifications. Crow, did you ever look into Minutes Network? I did a little bit. Maybe I'll do that tonight. I can look at Minutes Network. I want to look at different stuff that you guys are interested in tonight. And then we talk about it. So this is saying, so yes, that's YouTube, should be YouTube, and it's at the top, so I should be seeing you guys, but it's not populating. This is gonna piss me off. And I like the boxed. Always show messages. Yes. Yeah. Show the messages, dang nabbit. I also noticed, I don't know if somebody's doing this. I am wearing shorts, just so don't get excited. But I noticed that on October 1st, somebody's going through my video. It's obviously a Solana person is going through all my videos and like flagging them for all kinds of random things like cyberbullying and all of that. I signed up with this service that, I thought I saw a chat flicker for a second. I think what's happening? Something is happening. Hold on. I can see it flickering on my screen the way it is here. Hide delay. There should be no delay. Okay, it's populating over here. Thoughts on XRP potential? Yeah, we're going to dive into a bunch of that stuff. As soon as I get this daggone background color should be black, text should be white. See, I see something popping up there. We can see the chat. You can see it, but I can't. I can see it now. Oh, is it working? Is it working? Oh, look, it's working. Cool. Because I like being able to see that. That's really cool. All right. Well, maybe I'll start going live more and using that. Because I really like to be able to, I like you guys being able to see the chat, and I like other viewers to be able to see the chat and what's going on. So cool, man. All right. So now I'm going to move my chat, my other chat over here so I can see it in the real big words because I'm old and blind. Let's see. So I'm going to scroll up a little bit. I'm excited. I haven't been live with you guys in a while, just to kind of hang out and kind of go over everything. And yeah, that's cool. That's cool stuff. So let's see what we can dive into. So somebody asked me about Minutes Network. So let's see. Let's take a look. See off the cuff. Why is it not on CoinGecko? That's not a good sign. Swap. I guess it's not listed on CoinGecko yet. Oh my God, I hear my cat going crazy outside. He hears me talking. Cardano, he's outside. He's outside my office going meow meow. Have you ever heard a Maine Coon meow? It's totally different than other cats. It's actually kind of funny because it's like they think they're talking. Oh, it's in pre-sale. Okay. Well, let me pull something up. Aren't they working with Iagon? Wait a minute. Hold on. Minutes Network. You know what I haven't checked in a while is my Nuvola tokens. All right, let's see here. Oh, and there's chat there too. All right, cool. This is getting fun. All right. This old dog can learn new tricks. So Minutes Network token. This better not be. I know this is a Cardano thing. Yeah, they're in partnership with World Mobile. That's right. Global interconnection partners. I can tell you right now, I don't have any of their tokens. Register to take advantage of Minute Network's voice termination services. Why would I want to terminate my voice? I rather appreciate my voice. So they're based out of London, UK. Okay. The sharing economy of international wholesale telecommunications, buy, stake, and earn. I've read up on this before. Didn't I do a white paper share on, hold on. Did I do a white paper AI thing on my other channel? I'm about to look. AI audio files. Where it is. Why isn't it popping up? Hold on. AI audio file. I don't know why that other channel isn't popping up. That's not cool. Is it? I have it linked on my main channel, so oh, there I am live. Oh, it's just audio files. That's why. So yeah, this is my other channel I've been adding to. And all of these are AI audio podcasts. So what I'm doing with these is I'm taking so here's IMF trust bridges and money flows. These are all IMF reports. IMF system implications and financial inclusion, which I'm sure all of you guys love. You're all about the future of financial advice, the future of jobs. So these are all reports. They're either reports from like the World Economic Forum, the IMF, or they're white papers. Like the World Economic Forum, top 10 emerging jobs. I thought I did something. I did the World Mobile Token. So I did World Mobile Token. I've got Singularity Net, API 3. I guess I haven't done anything on Minutes Network yet. I did the Ouroboros proof of work blockchain protocol. So I'll give you a taste.
All right. We're ready to dive deep today into the world of Cardano.
Yeah, sounds good.
And specifically their proof of stake system, Ouroboros.
Okay.
Now, you've brought this to us, this Cardano Ouroboros.pdf, which is quite the academic paper. And you're really interested in understanding kind of what this new approach to blockchain is all about.
Absolutely.
So let's break down some of the core components.
Can you guys hear this okay?
And see if we can't shed some light on what makes it unique.
Okay, sounds good.
Now, one of the things that's really interesting about Ouroboros is that it's really aiming to solve some of the big criticisms that have been levied at cryptocurrency, particularly in terms of energy sustainability and security vulnerabilities that have kind of plagued the well-known proof.
So I was just giving you a little sample, but I don't know how many of you guys know what this is. Is the VP debate happening now? Oh, I don't know. I need to check that out. Audio sounds good. Yes, audio is good. Yeah. So basically what this is literally the Ouroboros white paper in an AI podcast discussion. I don't know how many of you guys have seen this yet, but I've been cranking some of these things out, and I've got like 300 PDFs on trading and everything that I'm adding to this. It's louder than me. Okay. Is that good or bad? I don't know. I can increase my volume a little bit, so it's just barely touching the red. Real good. So anyway, yeah, I mean, check that out. But I thought I had something on Minutes Network, but I guess I don't. So I'm going to take a look at this. And then while I'm doing that, let me see what time the debate is, because typically they're at like 9 o'clock. If it is, we can watch it together. Yeah, it's at 9 o'clock. So it's live at 9. So we've got about 40 minutes. But if you guys want, by the time we get there, if I'm not too tired, maybe we can all watch it together and see what's popping. Man, I'm wearing this shirt that's been in my office for a while. I just threw it on and it smells like dust. It smells like an old attic. So telecommunications powered by the blockchain. Earn rewards. I know that World Mobile Tokens portal just went live too, I think, but I haven't touched it or done anything with it yet. We reward M&T switch and validation node stakers for supporting Minutes Network capacity and integrity. I know I've covered this in the past, but I look and read so much stuff that I don't remember all of the details, but I remember thinking this is really cool. I do remember that much. I'm sure there's a video that I've done on it, but I don't remember, because a lot of the stuff I do nowadays is I do it kind of in real time, and I just kind of give you guys my thoughts as I'm reading through everything. But I can't remember if I actually read a white paper on this. I was thinking I did, but I'm not seeing it anywhere, so I'm not sure. But I remember going through this at one point, and I thought it was actually a pretty cool project, and especially the fact that they're working with World Mobile. I'm like, yeah. Josh Watkins, is he related to he's the CEO? I wonder if he's related. It doesn't say in this, but I wonder if they're like brothers or something. Actually, you know what? I think he is. I think Josh is Mickey Watkins' brother, because I think they originally started on World Mobile together, and then Josh branched out and created this. Unless I'm mistaken, I'm telling you, I forget more than most people know. Josh is Mickey's brother. That makes sense. Okay. See, I know I covered this in the past. I don't own any tokens, though, if it's even possible yet, because I don't see anything about token sales or anything of that nature. But yeah, I covered this before, and I thought it was actually really cool. I think I acted like I was going to leg kick Mickey when we were at Rare Evo. Of course, I didn't. I acted like I was going to leg kick a few guys. Rob, with Cornucopias, I think I came up behind him and freaked him out for a second. He knew better. I would never do it. I would never do that to somebody that didn't ask me. But I have had people ask me, and then they limp away in really bad shape. So let me see what I want to make this text bigger. Can I make it bigger so I can read it easier? Maybe it's another page I'll have to open up. Okay, there we go. All right, so I'm going to go to the top here and just cover all of everybody's, but I'll leave Minutes Network up for you guys that are into it while I'm kind of going over the chat and any questions and things. Audio is good. Audio is perfect, Jason. Yeah, it sounds pretty good in my ear, even though I hate the sound of my own voice. I'm not one of those guys that loves to hear myself talk. Wow, happy to catch you live. Well, thank you. Do you expect that the Middle East conflict will have a big impact on the coming bull run? That's a really good question. You know, I drive my wife absolutely insane because I'm always talking about this stuff. And, you know, I just don't know, man. I'm telling you, I don't know how we went from like peace everywhere to just full-blown chaos all over the world in just a matter of a few years. I'm telling you, there are there's a lot more at play than we see on the news. I'm sure of that much. And it scares the absolutely bejeebas out of me. I just don't know what's going to happen. I really don't. And I just feel like everything is inch by inch escalating. I will say that a part of what scares me even more sometimes is the fact that so many of those billionaires like Oprah and Zuckerberg and all those guys were building these like $1 billion bunker properties all over the place in like different states and different places. And they were all kind of doing it at the same time. And I'm like sitting here thinking to myself, why are they all collectively building these big luxury bunkers for themselves? What's coming? And now that we're getting closer to election season and, it's already started, I think, in some places. And just like the situation, like California just made it illegal to like request identification to vote. Like, what is this? What is happening? How is this even? You know what? I don't even want to get into a big political thing because I know that some of you guys are you guys are right, left, in between and all that. And listen, I respect your opinion. My wife and I talk about this a lot too. And it's like, you know what? Everybody has their own upbringing, right? We all have our own perspectives on life, the world around us. And all of that is established by our own perception of the world that's based on the way we grew up and the way we live. And we all have a different outlook. And, some people prioritize things over others. And it's just like, I've never been opposed, and I say it all the time. I don't think a lot of people believe me, but it's 100% true. I really don't care if you're liberal. I don't care if you're, I have friends of literally all walks of life. I do not judge people by money or sexuality or anything. I don't give a crap. I don't care. All I ever care about is like, are you a good person? Like, that's it. My wife and I are the same way. She likes to think of herself as quite the hippie, and she likes to she thinks she can see people's energy and all that. Honestly, she kind of can. So it's like, it's hard to make fun of her too much. But that's our thing, man. Like, if you've got a good soul, if you're a good person, I don't give a hoot what you're into, where you are on the political spectrum. It really just doesn't matter. But I do believe that we have far too many uneducated people that are just, they're just not paying enough attention. They're just not paying enough attention, and they're letting their emotions get the best of them. And I really do feel like emotional people are much more easily hijacked than more logical people willing to put in the time to understand the total picture. And I actually wrote this real long thing about pronouns the other day because I had this epiphany. My wife has me listening to this book. I'm not even going to say what it is because it's an insane book, and you guys are going to be like, what? And I'm listening to this audiobook, and listening to this, I had this epiphany about pronouns. Like, what's the whole point behind it? And I wrote this thing. I had it in 5 pages long, and I posted on Facebook, and then I deleted it because I'm like, this should be an inside thought, like an internal thought. But it's like the whole thing behind pronouns suddenly made sense to me. Not that I think that they're I'm not calling anybody a cat or like whatever. I'm sorry, but it did click. I had a moment where I'm like, okay, I think I understand the whole point of this, but all it boils down to is depopulation. I mean, and it will sound crazy, but I believe there have been a multitude of efforts to lower population. And I believe that this whole like feminism thing that has taken shape at the universities and is filtered out into social media, where like all men are trash, we're all useless, women don't need us, and this and that. And it's like a lot of that to me is like a form of groupthink. It's like programming women to basically sabotage themselves, but then to make themselves so toxic to men that we don't want them anymore. And I'm thinking to myself, well, what does a man do when he feels bombarded by toxicity? He doesn't want to deal with it, but his hormones are raging. But maybe he's religious and he's thinking to myself, I just want to have some fun, but I can't mess with these chicks because they're all crazy. They're going to try and take all my money and trap me and just use me and abuse me. but I can't mess with guys because I don't want to burn in hell. But maybe I could mess with the Z, or an effort to try and push people further outside of the nuclear family paradigm and into alternative means. And it's like, listen, I mean, if that works for people, good on you. Like, do whatever. But I think about stuff like this all the time, trying to make sense of a truly chaotic realm that we're in right now. And it just, some of the stuff just absolutely blows my mind. But yeah, that's how I've made sense of it, because for the longest time, I'm like, it just does not make sense. Why would there be such a focus and and my wife was trying, I explained this whole thing to my wife too. And she's like, I actually think there's something to that. Cause she'll tell me all the time if she thinks I'm full of shit. But she's like, there could be something to that. She's like, I kind of agree. It makes sense. But then she also added to it, where it's just like, what about people who grow up just feeling out of place, just feeling like they don't belong, and they're very, everything is very much internalized, and like the anxiety and the angst and the frustration of basically not feeling like you belong in this category or that category, or this group of people or that group of people. And how do you express that in a way that allows you to feel accepted? It sucks because as crazy as I think things have gotten, man, I feel for people like that. I really do, man. Like growing up, my best friend, all of the issues that he ran into with his family, and just like, it's just like, he was like my brother, man. And it's just like, he came out and he came out to his family first. They're all military and like just, badasses and stuff, bodybuilders, all the men, the women, they were all like Marines, and he got kicked out. He got into a big fist fight with his family and got kicked out, and came and lived with my mom and I. And my mom and I, like when I grew up, we were like the halfway house for all my friends back then. Like everybody would get kicked out and then come live with us for a month or 6 months or however long. And man, I just remember his trauma, and there are other people in my family even that I'm just like, man, they're so confused, and I wish there was more I could do to help them. But there's opposing forces. But anyway, I'm totally rambling. I'm going to go ahead and scroll down chat. But that's what I do live. I just ramble based off of whatever triggers any thought in chat. So you're either here for it or you're not. Hey, Crow, wanted to get your recent thoughts on Cornucopias. It's been developing a lot recently, though it's not reflected in token price at all. What can we achieve in this bull run? Man, that's a really good question. I know that Josh and Rob watch my channel, and they do not like it sometimes when I speak my mind freely, because it's not always, here's the thing. I think what they are building is absolutely mind-blowing. I think what they're going to ultimately achieve when everything gets to a point that like the world is able to play it, and the world is able to really start building and doing everything that's proposed in Cornucopias' plan. But to be real honest, I feel like they're doing so many things backwards. I feel like they're focusing on things that that's just not building the hype right now. I know it's all coming, and I know what they're all building, but like the way they spend their time, like I feel like there's an abundance of things to buy. Like there's an abundance of new NFTs, buy this vehicle, buy this jetpack, buy this land plot, buy this node, and it's just like all this stuff to buy, but it's all in the form of NFTs, and none of that really has anything to do with the token itself. And so it's like, I think the reason why the token hasn't gone up much is because there just isn't anything to be done with it yet. And they're building all of this fundamental stuff. And I know like Solus is kicking off, and Solus 1, 2, and 3, I think are all going out. And it's like they are building, man, and they're building a world that I think so many people are going to lose their time into. Like, I really do think that, like in the grand scheme. But like for me, I've been hounding them for years. When build? Like, when am I going to be able to go in and start building anything? I've had modular home building systems built by AAA game devs in the past for a game. And, you know, it cost me a little chunk of change, but it was a badass little system. And I know that it doesn't really take that long. And I'm like, why don't we have that? And like, why don't we have the things in play that are going to help further drive adoption for everything else? Because I always talk about No Man's Sky, or like any of these base building games, but primarily No Man's Sky is what I believe is going to be a big part of like how people look at building in Cornucopias, and the kinds of events and things, like all of the stuff that I want to do, I'm not able to even think about yet. And so it goes to the back burner for me. I don't even study every new release or every new announcement on Cornucopias yet, because the primary stuff that I'm most interested in just feels very far away. And those are a lot of the things that I think are going to involve the use of tokens. And until then, I feel like it's just a regular stream of new things to buy. Now, here's the flip side to that. What they're building would typically, I mean, think about how much money is put into building AAA level, massively multiplayer online games. You're talking tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars. Okay. So, and they're trying to do this all in a cryptocurrency ecosystem. And they're trying to do this without a huge amount, if any, I don't even really know, but a huge amount of venture capital. They're funding all of the development through what they're able to generate through these sales. So I get it, right? It's almost like, if you're watching like a charity event online, it's like you're tuning in because you want to see the acts, the bands, the performances, the comedy, whatever. But they're constantly hitting you with like, call this number to donate, call this number to make your pledge, right? Like not the Jerry Springer, Jerry, you know what I'm talking about, like the old telethons back in the day. It's kind of the vibe I get sometimes. It's just like, we're building and we're building and we're building. And by the way, buy this new thing. So, because we need to keep money flowing in because we're spending a hell of a lot of money building this stuff out. So, but I feel like, I know that Cornucopias is going to have its day, but I feel like it's kind of going about things in a fairly similar way to Cardano, if I'm honest. Like, just, they're taking their time, they're doing what they feel is necessary. Now, I could be also saying this and be saying, oh, well, they're not building the systems that many of us would love to use. But they could also be saying, listen, Crow, you don't really know what you're talking about, because we have to have these systems in place before we can really build all this other fun shit. And I completely acknowledge that could be a factor. So it's like, I've never built anything of this magnitude. I just know from an end user, from a content creator, from whatever, I know that when the day comes that, like racing, like how many people really truly care about racing? I mean, let me know in the chat, like how many of you genuinely care about racing in Cornucopias, and how much time and money did it take to build those systems, and why? And I've never asked them this, but I'm like, why was that such a primary factor early on, as opposed to a lot of these other things? Like, I'm sure there was a reason for it. I've just never asked them, and they've never really explained it. Was it a way to test certain integral systems that are going to be used throughout the rest of the game world? And that was an easy way of giving people something that says, listen, we're real, we're building, we're capable. Is it like almost like an MVP to show that they're very legitimate, and maybe that's the case. I don't know, but that's just the way I look at it. And I could be wrong. There could be a whole bunch of racing fans out there that absolutely love it. It's just not my bag. And for me as a creator, I'm thinking to myself, when people are able to, like, go look up No Man's Sky base building and see how many hundreds, if not thousands of videos you come up with on people showing off all of the different bases that they've built in No Man's Sky. I am very much anxiously awaiting seeing videos like that popping up all over YouTube for Cornucopias. And while I sound like maybe I'm dunking, I'm not. I'm saying all of this as a true fan of somebody, as somebody that genuinely wants to see Cornucopias take over Web3 gaming all over the world. And so I'm just thinking to myself, man, these are just some key systems that if they were just in place and everybody was able to effectively utilize them today, the amount of content that would create itself in abundance all over the place would just help drive not only the interest and adoption, but very much so the token price of Cornucopias up. Because think about it, that's all Sandbox had. And Sandbox's values for everything shot through the roof because it looked cool, right? I mean, it's like everybody knows Minecraft and they all kind of build it based off of this kind of blocky system. But, realistically, it was almost impossible, in my opinion, to build anything of merit in Sandbox because the tools were shit. Everything was kind of wonky, but it was possible. And so, you had people that were spending big amounts of money building things in partnership with Sandbox, and that kind of stuff drove up interest. Where is it now? I don't know. But the tools that they put out to build, like if Sandbox put out some tools, I don't know if they have. I would have to check because I haven't looked in at least a couple years. But if their tool sets made it so that somebody like me could easily go in and just structure and build on my lands, I would be doing it literally right now, and I would be creating content around it. But instead, it's all set up to be so difficult and so wonky that even hardcore 3D voxel-based builders didn't want to touch it. I talked to so many of them. Nobody wanted to mess with it. Everybody complained about it. And those that were willing to do it were quoting astronomical rates to build anything. And I think that's a big part of its problem. So, yeah, that was a really long-winded... Don't ask me no question you don't want no 25-minute answer to. Tell me about it, Crow. 47 tomorrow. Oh, Poe, man, you're 47? Oh, you old bastard. What are your thoughts on ADA? I mean, that's funny. Come on now. You know me. Sorry, should have mentioned that they are working with Nivola. Yeah, Nivola's cool. I've got some of those. I think I've got like 5,000 Nivola tokens, and they've been generating some tokens for me, like some IAG. And I think I've only seen like 3 different tokens that I've been accumulating with Nivola so far. But Corny B, what's up, man? Are you coming to Argentina? Hell no. I'm not going to Argentina for the same reason I didn't go to Singapore. I'm not getting on a daggone plane for that long. Bit Boy says ADA is done. Yeah, well, Big Boy says a lot of shit. I've just learned to just tune him out, honestly. I hope the engagement is worth it. That's all I can really tell him, because I really think he's going to find out he's really, really wrong. But Bit Boy left his waving kids, model citizen. Yeah, listen, guys, I know. I just don't care about Bit Boy or what he says on his channel anymore. I mean, I feel like his entire plane of existence has changed so dramatically. And I think he likes it that way. I do. I think he's just happier basically not having, I think he, I don't know, man. I stopped trying to make sense of what Ben does. And, I've learned, I've had people share stuff with me and show me things, and I'm like, wow, like absolutely mind blowing. And it's just like, I feel like I don't know, man. I really don't know. I don't know what to say. There really isn't anything to say. I know that I don't watch his videos anymore, really. I don't really pay much attention. I just feel like I'm at a place where I'm focusing on the good. I'm focusing on what's going well. I wish Ben all the best in whatever he's putting his time and money and effort into. I think what he's doing is really not good for a multitude of reasons, but he's doing it anyway. It is what it is, man. Crypto Chef, yeah, thank you for posting that link. I appreciate that. Ask Raul from Nivola what he thinks about Minutes Network. Dude loves it. Well, that's great. Matt Stew, gay for Jason. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. World Mobile Token Migration Portal is live until around the end of October. It is now WMTX, and you have to swap out your... Okay, I need to look that up then. I need to figure out, like, is that a necessity? Like, do I have to do that? Holy cow, what is that? I just got hit with something. Somebody super chatted. Oh, yeah, you know what? Thank you, Zima. I'm going to have to see if you have a question down there. But yeah, I just turned on super chats and all that. It was all turned off. I had to redo all of my stuff. Like, I realized I wasn't making anything with my monetization in YouTube for the longest time. And I just, it's like, money got tight. I'm like, well, I wonder what YouTube does. And then I come to find out, like, I haven't been really getting anything because I don't know, they deactivate stuff, or I needed to update paperwork or whatever. I had to do all of that, and then I turned it all back on. And I just made $10. So I'm gonna have to see what that's about here in just a moment. Is the VB debate okay? No, yeah, that happens at 9, so we've got about 20 minutes. We might, if you guys let me know in chat if you guys want to watch the debate with me, I might sit here and watch it with you, but it might be difficult for me to not hoot and holler and yell. Might punch my monitor. I don't know, we'll see. Who is this talking? Oh, that was the AI. That was the AI, which is the link that Crypto Chef posted right underneath you. Okay. Oh, it's at 8 p.m. Central, so it's 9 p.m. Eastern. Jason, these AI things are pretty neat. Great for crypto newbies. Yeah, like, I don't know if you guys have used that crypto price prediction calculator that I created. I think that was pretty badass, and I know that it wasn't like perfect in the sense that it doesn't use like really round numbers and things, which some of you guys commented on, which, like, I agree. But I was like, once I actually got that built, I didn't want to take a chance on screwing it up. But I built that in Replit. Actually, I can show you Replit. This is my Replit. I've got Love Connect on here because I was like, hey, can you make me a dating website? I experiment with all kinds of stuff. But this crypto future calculator, it's still deployed. But yeah, like that, I basically just, in Replit, you just tell it what you want to build, and then it creates all the code for you. Like, this is an example. So, this is the dating site, and I'm just experimenting. Like, is it possible? Can it do this? And it tells you like what it's going to do, and it builds all the files that you need to deploy the application. It will give you samples and demos to work with. If you get errors, it will acknowledge the error and then recode it. And it just does everything, man. I mean, it's amazing. I'm trying to come up with new ideas for things that I might be able to build myself and deploy. Like any kind of like software as a service. I've been thinking about, this was the next thing I was actually looking it up tonight, a little bit, is can I build a dashboard for Cardano metrics, like a really cool looking dashboard page that people can reference and get all the information they could possibly want about Cardano. So that might be something I do. And then if I launch it, I don't know if I would launch it as its own website or maybe a sub page to like cryptocrow.io or something like that. So go make sure you bookmark that website, because that's where I'll announce it for sure. Now, real quick, I'm going to look at the price. Okay, getting a little bit of a recovery. Yeah, I was up like $2,500 on this trade, and I didn't close it, and I should have. But I do this all the time. I just let it go. It is what it is. But I said, we're probably going to get a correction. And then by Wednesday, I expect it to reverse. And here we are. It's Tuesday, the 1st. We're in October. I'm hoping we get a recovery and we start working towards a new all-time high tomorrow. That's what I'm hoping. But I don't know if that's going to happen. But we'll see. Cardano really took a big, big dump. I mean, it looks huge, but really it's just a few cents. You know what I mean? Like, we see this, it's like, oh my God, red wall, but it's a few cents. It's like 4 or 5 cents. But I think that should definitely work on a recovery. I can even see this is a 4-hour candle, and I just saw it tick up. But when I see those big fat wicks that go all the way down and starts breaking through liquidity, when I see this bullish liquidity here, I know that it's going to hit a wall and start a reversal. And I'm hoping that Asia doesn't send this into the tank in the middle of the night. I'm hoping actually that Asia, really starts helping the price reversal and we can work our way back up past 41 cents. That's really what I'm expecting. So we'll see. I'm always right sometimes. Oh shit. I got to get down to his comment. Where did it go? Oh, there it is. As a gamer, I look at crypto gaming as something that is going to microtransaction every step of the way. I need a game to prove otherwise for me to believe in blockchain gaming. Interesting. Interesting comment. And thank you for that $10 tip, Zima. I haven't had a tip in, I don't know, man. It's probably been a year. But yeah, I do think, like, I actually started playing, oh my gosh, what's the game? Throne and Liberty. And I just started playing that. And I'm like, that whole game is it's free to play, but and you can play it free forever. Or you can get into the microtransactions and buy benefits and bonuses and things like that to level up and to help you become stronger. And I just think that the games nowadays cost so much money. I'm going to turn these lower thirds off so that people can see the chat better. I really wish that were a little darker instead of being transparent too, but it is what it is. But yeah, I think that, it just like I was kind of giving Cornucopias a little shit. It feels like every Sunday there's like Sunday, buy this, buy that. And it is what it is, but I don't know. It costs so much money to build these games nowadays. And at the same time, I feel like the indie game market is becoming really, really popular because I feel like a lot of these major game studios have kind of lost the plot. For example, Ubisoft, I think their stock price is like $2 right now. And I mean, it's just tanked. And I think it's a lot of these, I think it's a lot of these companies pushing these narratives on people that the gaming community just does not want to be force fed messages. I just think that it's just not working. Like, and, I feel like a lot of these companies feel like, oh, well, if we put a whole bunch of money into something and we make it real pretty, but we load it with all of this stuff that people really don't want to be forced on, they don't want it to be forced on them, that they'll just deal with it because the game will be so good. The problem is these games are not that good. Like the game, like, man, I was super pumped about, was it Star Wars Outlaws or whatever? And it's just like, I don't have a problem playing a game with a female lead character. That doesn't really bother me so much. And I was like, oh, okay, she's a smuggler and she's like, kind of like the Han Solo. And I'm like, that could be really cool. I've always wanted to play a game like that, like an open world Star Wars game where I could be a bounty hunter with like really cool systems that are, focused around being a bounty hunter. But that's a different story. But the game was trash. I never even bought it. I had it wish listed. I was ready to buy it. I wanted to, but then all the reviews started coming out and it was just like, it's trash. And then you see all the examples of all of the bugs and how then their pricing model was so deplorable, in my opinion. You have to spend like $100 just to get the full game. If you buy the standard price game, you got like a chunk of it, but everything that they did was like they cut off their nose to spite their face. And I'm like, the one thing, and I am circling back to this, the one thing that I will say about a lot of these free-to-play microtransaction games is they work. And you can play them. And they're not loaded with all of this garbage and these forced messages and so it's almost like, they're gaining ground because a lot of these other major corporations are just pumping out trash. So you almost don't have a choice. Like I've been playing, I think I'm like level 20 or something like that in Throne of Liberty. I played at night after my wife passes out. And yeah, man, I mean, it's like, I don't know. I just feel like that's where the market's going. And it kind of sucks to a certain extent, but if all else fails, you can always go back to Cyberpunk or Skyrim for the 80th time. Ben makes money off of drama, period. Just like our news these days. You know, he's not the only one. I'll say that. But yeah, listen, man. I mean, I will say this about Ben. He's not a stupid person. I mean, you know, if I was just solely focused on like making money and trying to be as big as possible, like regardless of how, just going out, starting fights with people, starting rumors, making up stories, you know, like just doing I'm not even saying that's exactly what Ben's doing, but I'm just saying in general, you know, if that's, you go after the biggest crypto projects in the space and just dunk on them all the time and get everybody all riled up and telling you what a asshole you are for what you said while you're just sitting there raking in the money, man, because all of that is engagement that pays the bills. So like, could you imagine how much I would make if I just did a video tomorrow where I just dunked on Cardano hard? All of you guys would hate my guts, but I'd go straight to the bank. I mean, and you know, I don't know. And then I could just go out and buy some Sol tokens and just wait for the VCs to pump the market for me. Oh man, it is what it is. I know Ben's pissed a lot of you guys off, but I really just don't care anymore. I really just don't pay any attention. You guys probably shouldn't either. I mean, it's just focus on the good vibes, the good energy. You know, we're basically in a bull market. We're working our way up. A lot of things are gonna happen. You know, this time next year, everybody's going to look back and you're just going to laugh as you're just trying to figure out, you know, how to pay your tax bill. Like, just there's more important shit to worry about. Okay, somebody was spamming in chat. Looks like Crypto Chef's got it. Thank you, dude. Where do you stake NVL? I'm pretty sure you can just stake it right on their website. I can't remember where I staked it. Crypto Crow has ADA bottomed versus Bitcoin. It's under 600 sats, 400s. I'm not 100% sure. Did I put a new one in? I don't think I have yet. Yeah, I didn't, because it's a pain in the butt to open. I don't know. Honestly, I haven't even looked. I just don't worry about it. I feel like I'm pretty confident in what the future holds, so I don't really worry about these short-term price. I've already loaded up. I've got all the ADA that I want, and I, you know, I'd set a goal a couple years ago, like where I want to be, and it took me all that time pretty much to get back to there. Yeah, so I just don't worry so much. And, you know, I've been adding other tokens. I've got Iagon, I've got World Mobile tokens. You know, I've got a little of quite a few different things. I think I've got maybe 15 different assets in various amounts. I've got some new Vola token. So yeah, I'm just not worried so much. What I typically do is I focus primarily on Bitcoin. Because when Bitcoin does well, it's the ocean that raises all ships. If Bitcoin is not doing well, it's very likely that nothing else is doing well unless it's being wildly manipulated somehow, because it's just not the way that the crypto market works. So if it's unnaturally going against the overall flow of the market, something's happening. And I don't want any part of that. I know that. I will tell you guys that I did officially sell. You know, for a long time, I would do the Solana videos where I would be talking about its data and like what's going on with Solana. I sold all of it. I got rid of every single one of them. I don't hold any Solana at all anymore. Because I you know, when I was running Crow Trader, which I've been waiting forever for, another version of it, based off of some new changes and things, because I really wanted to get back into it before the market started to tear. And unfortunately, like, my developer's just having a lot of issues, personal issues, you know, and it's just not even my business to discuss. But, you know, I know that he's having some family issues and that relates to like the pandemic. We'll just say that. And, you know, I'll just leave it there. And it's not good. And so he's struggling, man. And, you know, I feel for him, but it's like, you know, there's nothing I can do. and he's just kind of going through it a little bit. So, but my bot was trading some Solana at one point, and it accumulated some, and then it dumped, and then I was stuck with it, and then I just held on to it, and that was when Solana was like $20. So I can't complain. But I'm just, I'm over it. I'm done. I sold them all. You know what I really want though, and I'm probably not ever going to get any, but I really do kind of want some of those new Bitcoin ordinal omen NFTs. I think those are cool, man. I tried to buy some the other night, and it was just so complicated because I didn't have anything set up on the computer I was on, and I wasn't able to get any. And then I just got frustrated and gave up. But I also didn't realize that there are so many different NFT collections on Bitcoin right now. And like, I kind of want to create my own. I have an idea for an NFT collection that I know, like, it literally just kind of like, it's another one of those things where it's like, I wouldn't expect it to amount to much. Listen, I know that when it comes to NFTs, a lot of people launch these things and they're like, oh yeah, we're going to take a percentage of the profits. We're going to use this to build this, that, and another thing and all that. But I'm like, that's how you get into trouble, man. I don't think you can really get in trouble if you're just selling art. But you know, when profits from an NFT collection are going into development for a company, that's why the SEC is calling some of those things securities now. And it's like, I just don't want to play that game. It helps the prices go up, and it helps them be more valuable. But that's also another reason why, I think some of those projects are going to be running into some issues potentially at some point. Let's see here. What do you think of Solus? I think Solus is cool. I think all of it's cool. I think everything Cornucopias is doing is cool. I just wish it was in a different order so that I could participate more and do more content. Crypto Cree is Eagle is a free. What's the name of your indicator? You're talking about the green and red liquidity bars. That is part of the Lux algo. Man, what is this even called? I don't even remember. I wonder if it tells me in there. I don't remember. Dag nabbit. It's such a long name. But it's Lux Algo Price Action Concepts, and it's free. I think it's free. I'm not 100% sure. I know that they gave me access to an account, so I have access to a lot of the Lux Algo stuff. I really like them. I like a lot of their stuff, but I primarily just use the Lux Algo indicator, and then I will use so I will turn on volume. Woo, look at that volume. That sucks. But I'll turn on volume, and then I'll also use parts of Market Cipher, because I like to have the blood diamonds and the X's, like the yellow and red X's, because that really does seem to, it seems to be pretty dead ass accurate about telling you like there's going to be a big dump. Like the price will move down a bit, but it'll tell you like there's probably going to be a much bigger dump coming. And yeah, and then from there you can use money flow. The money flow and the VWAP and stuff like that is pretty useful. So I typically, if I'm actively trading, which I'm not right now, I basically swing trade. My liquidation point right here is 30 grand. I doubt Bitcoin's ever going to see 30 grand again, maybe ever. So I feel pretty confident at 61,000, but who knows? Anything could happen. It's crypto. And, but anyway, let me see if this debate is coming. I wish there was I don't think it's started yet. I'm not even sure where to watch it. I'm guessing Fox. I know some of you guys are probably going to throw up in your mouths a little bit by me saying that, but I don't know what other networks. Here's the thing. I hate watching debates. Honestly, I hate watching anything political that is basically telling me what to think about what I'm seeing. I hate that. I feel so insulted. I don't need them to tell me how to be emotional and think about stuff. Why can't Crow see my messages? DRC. Well, that's the first one I've seen. Are you trolling? Because I'm scrolling up and I don't see anything else. I don't see nothing wrong. I don't see you, dude. That's the first thing I've seen you say. I have some money on the side. Where would you suggest putting it? Bro, I can't tell you that. I won't tell anybody what to buy or any of that because I just don't know. It's a crapshoot. I would hope that anything in the top 50, I don't have a problem telling people what I buy, but I won't tell you what to buy because I might buy things for different reasons, man. And I'm not a financial advisor. I'm just some old dude on the internet that shares his opinions on things, and I'm always right sometimes. And I don't want the sometimes to be a time when, I tell you something, you go out and do it, and then you get screwed, and then you're back here just flaming me and reporting all my videos because I said shit or something. Crow, you called the double top last time. What time frame between now and next year do you think we reach our peak and begin to seriously take profits off the table? That's a good question, Jason. Realistically, I'm still not 100% sure because when I look at Bitcoin, this may sound crazy, and I haven't confirmed this, and I don't feel confident about it yet. But oh yeah, I did create that indicator that shows you the interest rates. I created it. It's by Crypto Crow. You can find it. It's free. I just threw it out there for anybody that's interested in it. But this basically shows you the federal interest rates as they change. So on the dates they change, it paints the number so that you can see what the price action of Bitcoin is and how it reacts and responds to interest rate changes. Because I was literally going through on a different chart. I don't even remember which one. I don't want to search for it because I have a whole bunch of them, but I'll do another video on it. I'm going to say this tentatively. For whatever reason, I think it's going to go one of two ways. I think either one, we're going to have this little period here. We could come back down again a little bit, but I'm not sold on that. But this is March. This is a weekly chart, by the way. So let's just go to I like a 2-day because typically the Wyckoff traders, the 2-day seems to be far more accurate in trying to work out Wyckoff accumulation distribution patterns. And basically, in a nutshell, man, I think this is either going to be like 2017 or it could be a 3-peak market this time. Because these ETFs are creating so much weirdness in the market, and it's changing the sentiment a lot, and it's doing so much. And when I went back, man, I do need to find that chart. Is it this one? No, dang it. Let me see if I can find it. Load. Is it this one? No, sorry guys, I'm not sure. Bitcoin dominance, Bitcoin weekly, H bar. Oh yeah, I did get a bunch of H bar. I forgot about that. I just went ahead and picked some up because, I had a bunch of karate tokens, and I'm like, I love my karate combat, but I'm like, I wanted to get some H bar, and that was the easiest way for me to get them. So I traded in some of my karate combat for H bar. Maybe it's this one. No, that's not it either. Well, I have a chart that I was working on, and I don't remember where it is or what happened to it, but I had a whole, this might be it. Oh, this isn't it either. Dang it. All right. Well, it doesn't matter. But basically, I was looking at how COVID, I really think that to some extent, the COVID pandemic is one of the reasons why we ended up in a 2-peak market last time. And I am still not, I'm trying to figure out what like the October surprise is going to be this time. I mean, because that stuff scares me, and I feel like it's always something that really screws the public, and it's always something that catches everyone by surprise. And, I'm just not sure. I'm really not. I'm mumbling because there's so many thoughts that I have in my head, and I don't know how to clear it all up in any real way right now. But believe me, I'm working on it in a lot of different ways, trying to figure it out. Because remember, in the 2-peak cycle, when the pi cycle top indicator crossed over, that was just the first peak. So the Pi cycle top crossed over on the April 13th, which is a part of how I called the peak of the market that day when I was getting on the plane. Tell the story a million times. What nobody saw coming was the second peak, but this two peak cycle, if you roll this out into like a Wyckoff pattern, this was all kind of part of like an exaggerated Wyckoff pattern that matched the NASDAQ 2007 identically. And when I saw that, I thought, okay, this is definitely where we're going. And, you know, I called it all the same day because I was looking at everything leading up to that point when I was getting before I got onto the plane moving to Puerto Rico. And so I kind of knew, I had a thought that that's what was coming. And I said in that Twitter post that afternoon, I'm like, this could very well be a two peak market, but I could be wrong. For those of you that have been following me for a long time, you guys will probably remember that. But I don't know 100% what's coming yet. I think it's just too early to tell, quite honestly. Let me know in the chat. Do you guys want to watch the debate with me, or do you guys rather just? Hillary was saying the October surprise is coming. I'm sure it is, man. These guys have all kinds of craziness going on. Let's hit that subscribe. Thank you, Alex. That's my cousin in chat. He's probably as tall as me now. I don't even know. Alex, how tall are you now? Are you like 6'10", 6'11"? You got to be close. You think my voice is deep? My Alex Lawson in the chat is the deepest voice you're ever going to hear in your life. He sounds like Barry, what's that guy? Hey, he's that black dude that sings the songs back. Barry White, is it? Is that who I'm thinking of? Make a series of videos similar to a choose your own adventure about all the different ideas you have. My life is a choose your own adventure. Hey, and go figure, those were my favorite books as a kid. You're 6'8". Okay. So you're still little, man. Come on. You're still just a little guy. You gotta get in the big leagues with those big old ogres. Luke's voice is deeper than mine. Oh my God. Barry White. Yeah, that's what I thought. Old school player back in the day. Hey, ladies, how you doing? Sip that wine, lay down. Whatever he would say in his songs. Women would just swoon. They'd be like, man, this dude looks like a walrus, but he's sexy. That voice he's got going on. I don't even care. Turn them lights out. Absolutely, I'm going to turn them lights out. I'm terrible. Where can I watch? I guess it would be on YouTube, wouldn't it? I mean, let me see if I can pull it up on the YouTubes. VP debate. I'm wondering if they're going to like, I don't even know what network this is on. Like who's hosting this? Is this going to be another like, hey, Waltz, what's your favorite color? Hey, hey, JD, how are you going to solve the world's problems? Iran missiles, dock workers. Yeah, the dock workers. That's not good. That's not a phone outage. I saw about that. Was it Verizon? I'm pretty sure they were hacked. Are they already?
1,800 Israelis and took prisoners. Israel's ability to be able to defend itself is absolutely fundamental. Getting its hostages back, fundamental, and ending the humanitarian crisis in Gaza. But
he doesn't have any Bluetooth earrings on, so that's a good sign.
It's an absolute fundamental necessity for the United States to have the steady leadership there. You saw it experienced today, where along with our Israeli partners and our coalition, able to stop the incoming attack. But what's fundamental here is that steady leadership is said that he was the most flawed human being he'd ever met. And both of his secretaries of defense and his national security advisors said he should be nowhere near the White House. Now, the person closest to them, Donald Trump, said he's unfit for the highest office. That was Senator Vance. What we've seen out of Vice President Harris is we've seen steady leadership. We've seen a calmness that is able to draw on the coalitions.
It's easy to be calm when you don't know what's going on.
Understanding that our allies matter. When our allies see Donald Trump turn towards Vladimir Putin, turn towards North Korea, when we start to see that type of fickleness around holding the coalitions together, we will stay committed. And as the vice president said today we will protect our forces and our allied forces, and there will be consequences.
Governor, your time is up. Senator Vance, the same question. Would you support or oppose a preemptive strike by Israel on Iran? You have 2 minutes.
So, Margaret, I want to answer the question. First of all, thanks, Governor. Thanks to CBS for hosting the debate. And thanks, most importantly, to the American people who are watching this evening and caring enough about this country to pay attention to this vice presidential debate. I want to answer the question, but I want to actually give an introduction to myself a little bit, because I recognize a lot of Americans don't know who either one of us are.
I don't know.
In a working class family.
I don't know,
that
man.
Required food assistance
Probably
periods of her life. My grandmother,
I think I can watch it without raging.
Security help to raise me, and she raised me in part because my own mother struggled with addiction for a big chunk of my early life. I went to college on the GI Bill after I enlisted in the Marine Corps and served in Iraq. And so I stand here asking to be your vice president with extraordinary gratitude for this country, for the American dream that made it possible for me to live my dreams. And most importantly, I know that a lot of you are worried about the chaos in the world and the feeling that the American dream is unattainable. I want to try to convince you tonight over the next 90 minutes that if we get better leadership in the White House, if we get Donald Trump back in the White House, the American dream is going to be attainable once again. Now, to answer this particular question, we have to remember that as much as Governor Walz just accused Donald Trump of being an agent of chaos, Donald Trump actually delivered stability in the world, and he did it by establishing effective deterrence. People were afraid of stepping out of line. Iran, which launched this attack, has received over $100 billion in unfrozen assets thanks to the Kamala Harris administration. What do they use that money for? They use it to buy weapons that they're now launching against our allies, and God forbid, potentially launching against the United States as well. Donald Trump recognized that for people to fear the United States, you needed peace through strength. They needed to recognize that if they got out of line, the United States global leadership would put stability and peace back in the world. Now, you asked about a preemptive strike, Margaret, and I want to answer the question. Look, it is up to Israel what they think they need to do to keep their country safe, and we should support our allies wherever they are when they're fighting the bad guys. I think that's the right approach to take with the Israel question.
Thank you, Senator. Governor Walz, do you care to respond to any of the allegations?
Well, look, Donald Trump was in office. We'll sometimes hear a revisionist history, but when Donald Trump was in office, it was Donald Trump who we had a coalition of nations that had boxed Iran's nuclear program in, the inability to advance it. Donald Trump pulled that program and put nothing else in its place. So Iran is closer to a nuclear weapon than they were before because of Donald Trump's fickle leadership. And when Iran shot down an American aircraft in international airspace, Donald Trump tweeted, because that's the standard diplomacy of Donald Trump.
Welcome, Jason Clark.
And when Iranian missiles did fall near U.S. troops and they received traumatic brain injuries, Donald Trump wrote it off as headaches. Look, our allies understand that Donald Trump is fickle. He will go to whoever has the most flattery or where it makes sense to him. Steady leadership like you witnessed today, like you witnessed in April. Both Iranian attacks were repelled. Our coalition is strong, and we need the steady leadership that Kamala Harris is providing.
Senator
How do you blame somebody who was in office for 4 years and spent the majority of their time fighting all kinds of legal battles of made-up nonsense,
Trump did exit that
when
deal.
the other side has had control of the country now for like 14 out of the, what, 14 out of the
now make a
16,
diplomatic deal with Iran
18 years? Like, we've had one,
impossible.
we've had one term.
Did he make a mistake?
Everything else has been under Democratic leadership. I don't understand how everything is Trump's fault. Like, he
said is quite extraordinary. You yourself just
it's all nonsense. It's all nonsensical to me.
As they have ever been. And Governor Walz, you blame Donald Trump, who has been the vice president for the last 3.5 years. And the answer is your running mate, not mine. Donald Trump consistently made the world more secure. Now, we talk about what the sequence of events
12 out of the last 16.
led us to where we are right now, and you can't ignore October the 7th, which I appreciate Governor Walz bringing up. But when did Iran and Hamas and their proxies attack Israel? It was during the administration of Kamala Harris. So Governor Walz can criticize Donald Trump's tweets, but effective, smart diplomacy and peace through strength is how you bring stability back to a very broken world. Donald Trump has already done it once before. Ask yourself at home, when was the last time, I'm 40 years old, when was the last time that an American president didn't have a major conflict break out? The only answer is during the 4 years that Donald Trump was president.
Gentlemen, we have a lot to get to. Nora?
I mean,
Barbara,
it's true.
thank you.
How do you challenge
Let's
that?
turn now to Hurricane Helene. The storm could become one of the deadliest.
Vance is
on
smart.
record.
He's a good
More than
speaker, but I would much rather have had
160 people are
RFK,
dead,
man.
and hundreds more are missing. Scientists say climate change makes these hurricanes larger, stronger, and more deadly because of the historic rainfall.
Or Vivek.
Senator Vance,
I like
according
Vivek,
to
but I
CBS
wasn't
News
sold on
polling,
him because
7 in 10 Americans,
Vivek to
and
me
more
is
than
almost too good of a
60%
speaker,
Republicans
too
under the
smooth,
age of 45
too smart.
favor the U.S.
There's something
taking
about him
steps
that
to
just
try
kind
and
of gave me
reduce
the
climate
heaves, though.
change. Senator, what responsibilities,
Especially when
would
the
Trump
World
administration
Economic
have to
Forum
try
labeled
and
him as
reduce
an
the
alumni or
impact
something, and I'm
of
like,
climate change?
now I don't know
I'll give
what's
you 2
true
minutes.
and what's
Sure. So
not.
first of all, let's start with the hurricane because it's an unbelievable, unspeakable human tragedy. I just saw today actually a photograph of 2 grandparents on a roof with a 6-year-old child, and it was the last photograph ever taken of them because the roof collapsed and those innocent people lost their lives. And I'm sure Governor Walz joins me in saying our hearts go out to those innocent people, our prayers go out to them, and we want as robust and aggressive as a federal response as we can get to save as many lives as possible. And then, of course, afterwards to help the people in those communities.
You know what? Living in Florida, I can tell you right now.
I know very personally in Appalachia, all across the Southeast.
DeSantis has no charisma whatsoever because I'm sure he's on the spectrum.
When Donald Trump
and he
is
just
president
speaks
again,
and he just
the
says what he
government will
thinks
put the
and all of
citizens of
that.
this
I think he
country
has
first when they suffer from a disaster.
what he does in the
Nora, you
state of
asked about
Florida,
climate
man.
change.
I don't think he can
this
get
is a
any
very
better.
important
And I
issue.
think if he were
A
able
lot
to
of people
apply
are
what he's
justifiably worried about
accomplished in
these crazy
Florida on a
weather
national
patterns. I think
level,
it's
he'd have been a
important for us,
hell
first
of a
all, to say,
president.
Donald Trump and I support
He
clean air,
just- he's
clean
just
water.
not
We
somebody
want the
to-
environment to be cleaner.
He's
and
very
safer.
weird
One
in
of
the
things
sense that
I've
he's
noticed some of our
socially
Democratic
socially
folks talking a lot
inept.
about is a concern about carbon
But
emissions. This idea
he's
that
smart
carbon
and he knows
emissions
a lot.
drives all of the climate change. Well, let's just say that's true, just for the sake of argument, so we're not arguing about weird science. Let's just say that's true. Well, if you believe that, what would you want to do?
I'd have been cool with
The
Tulsi
answer is that
Gabbard
you'd want to
even.
reshore
I mean,
as
she
much
was a
American
Democrat at
manufacturing
one
as
point,
possible, and you'd
but
want to produce as much energy as possible in the United States
she'd
of
have been a
America
good VP,
because we're
good-
the cleanest
probably a
economy
good
in the
president.
entire world. What have Kamala Harris's policies actually led to? More energy production in China, more manufacturing overseas, more doing business in some of the dirtiest parts of the entire world. And when I say that, I mean the amount of carbon emissions they're doing per unit of economic output. So if we actually care about getting cleaner air and cleaner water, the best thing to do is to
Tulsi.
double down and invest in American workers and the American people. And unfortunately,
I think
Kamala Harris
Tulsi's
has
one of
done
the first
exactly the
women
opposite.
in politics.
Governor Walz, you have 2 minutes.
I
to
mean,
respond.
Hillary's a
We got
tough
close
chick.
to an
Let's be
agreement,
real.
'cause all those things
Hate her all you
happen.
want.
Look,
I mean,
first of
she's
all,
lifelong,
it
tough
is
as
a
nails.
horrific tragedy,
But I think Tulsi has a lot
with this
more
hurricane.
integrity,
and my heart
personally.
goes
But I
out
think
to the
Tulsi
folks
is a
that are
tough
down
chick.
there in contact with the governors. I serve as co-chair of the Council of Governors as we work together on these emergency management.
And yes, I'm being generous
No partisanship.
to
They work
people
together.
that I
because all of
really
the
have
governors
no-
and the emergency responders are on the ground. Those happen on the front end. The federal government comes in, makes sure they're there to that we recover. But we're still in that phase where we need to make sure that they're staying there, staying focused. Now, look, coming back to the climate change issue, there's no doubt this thing roared onto the scene faster and stronger than anything we've seen. Senator Vance has said that there's a climate problem in the past. Donald Trump called it a hoax and then joked that these things would make more beachfront property to be able to invest in. What we've seen out of the Harris administration now, the Biden-Harris administration, is we've seen this investment. We've seen massive investments, the biggest in global history that we've seen in the Inflation Reduction Act, has created jobs all across the country. 2,000 in Jeffersonville, Ohio, taking the EV technology that we invented and making it here. 200,000 jobs.
I will
across
say it's
the
a lot
country.
easier to listen
the largest
to
solar manufacturing plant in North America sits in
Waltz
Minnesota.
than it is
But my
listening to
farmers know
Kamala.
climate change is real.
Oh my
They've
God,
seen
that woman
500-year
just
droughts,
irks me.
500-year floods back to back. But what they're doing is adapting, and this has allowed them to tell me, look, I harvest corn, I harvest soybean, and I harvest wheat.
People that laugh
We're
after
producing more
absolutely
natural
everything
gas
that comes
and
out of their
more oil
mouths
any
drive me
time we
nuts.
ever
I'm
have.
sorry.
We're also producing more clean energy.
I wonder if Kamala's a
The
Gemini.
solution for
Something
us
tells me
is to
she's a
continue
Gemini.
to move forward, that climate change is real. Reducing our impact is absolutely critical, but this is not a false choice. You can do that at the same time you're
Sorry
creating
for all you
jobs that
Geminis
we're
out
seeing
there.
all across the country. That's exactly what this administration has done. We are seeing us becoming an energy superpower for the future, not just the current. And that's what absolutely makes sense. And then we start thinking about how do we mitigate these disasters?
I feel like if they're really worried about
I'll give you an
energy,
opportunity
we'd be
to
focused on
respond there.
hydrogen
President
vehicles, not
mentioned that President
electric.
Trump has called climate change.
We'd be
a hoax.
focused on
Do you agree?
hydrogen energy.
Well, look, what the president has said is
Trump is a Gemini. That makes sense too. Let's be real. That makes sense too.
The climate change is serious. What they would be doing is more manufacturing and more energy production in the United States of America, and that's not what they're doing. So clearly, Kamala Harris herself doesn't believe her own rhetoric on this. If she did, she would actually agree with Donald Trump's energy policies. Now, something Governor Walz said I think is important to touch upon, because when we talk about clean energy, I think that's a slogan that often the Democrats will use here. And I'm talking, of course, about the Democratic leadership. And the real issue is that if you're spending hundreds of millions or even billions of dollars of American taxpayer money on solar panels that are made in China, number one, you're going to make the economy dirtier. We should be making more of those solar panels here in the United States of America. Some of them are, Tim, but a lot of them are being made overseas in China, especially the components that go into those solar panels. So if you really want to make the environment cleaner, you've got to invest in more energy production. We haven't built a nuclear facility, I think, one in the past 40 years. Natural gas, we got to invest more in it. Kamala Harris has done the opposite. That's raised energy prices and also meant that we're doing
Senator,
more by the climate.
your time is up. Governor, would you like to respond?
Well, look, we're producing more natural gas than we ever have. There's no moratorium on that. We're producing more oil.
I thought they were shutting down a lot of natural gas.
Like I said again,
natural gas ovens or stoves and all kinds of stuff, trying to stop people from using them.
Farmers that have been drought one year.
You have to correct me if I'm wrong, but I remember something about that. It's kind of nuts.
Sense. Look, our
they're
number one
making businesses pay a boatload of money to like re-outfit themselves.
We saw it in Minnesota this summer. And thinking about how do we respond to that, we're thinking ahead on this. And what Kamala Harris has been able to do in Minnesota, we're starting to weatherproof some of these things. The infrastructure law that was passed allows us to think about mitigation in the future. How do we make sure that we're protecting by burying our power lines? How do we make sure that we're protecting lakefronts and things that we're seeing more and more of? But to call it a hoax and to take the oil company executives to Mar-a-Lago, say, give me money for my campaign and I'll let you do whatever you want. We can be smarter about that. And an all-above energy policy is exactly what she's doing, creating those jobs right here.
Governor, your time is up. The overwhelming consensus among scientists is that the Earth's climate is warming at an unprecedented rate. Margaret?
Thank you, Nora. We're going to turn now to immigration. The crisis at the U.S.-Mexico border consistently ranks as one of the top issues for American voters. Senator Vance, your campaign is pledging to carry out the largest mass deportation plan in American history
is a Gemini.
and to use the U.S. military to do so. Could you be more specific about exactly how this will work?
Oh, dang.
For example,
look at me.
Would you deport
Look at
parents who have entered the U.S. illegally and separate them from any of their children who were born on U.S. soil? You have 2 minutes.
So first of all, Margaret, before we talk about deportations, we have to stop the bleeding. We have a historic immigration crisis because Kamala Harris started and said that she wanted to undo all of Donald Trump's border policies. 94 executive orders suspending deportations, decriminalizing illegal aliens, massively increasing the asylum fraud that exists in our system. That has opened the floodgates. And what it's meant is that a lot of fentanyl is coming into our country. I had a mother who struggled with opioid addiction and has gotten clean. I don't want people who are struggling with addiction to be deprived of their second chance because Kamala Harris let in fentanyl into our communities at record levels. So you've got to stop the bleeding. You've got to re-implement Donald Trump's border policies, build the wall, re-implement deportations. And that gets me to your point, Margaret, about what do we actually do? So we've got 25 million illegal aliens who are here in the country. What do we do with them? I think the first thing that we do is we start with the criminal migrants. About 1 million of those people have committed some form of crime in addition to crossing the border illegally. I think you start with deportations on those folks. And then I think you make it harder for illegal aliens to undercut the wages of American workers. A lot of people will go home if they can't work for less than minimum wage in our own country. And by the way, that'll be really good for our workers who just want to earn a fair wage for doing a good day's work. And the final point, Margaret, is you ask about family separation. Right now in this country, Margaret, we have 320,000 children that the Department of Homeland Security has effectively lost. Some of them have been sex trafficked. Some of them hopefully are at homes with their families. Some of them have been used as drug trafficking mules. The real family separation policy in this country is unfortunately Kamala Harris's wide open southern border. And I'd ask my fellow Americans to remember when she came into office, she said she was going to do this. Real leadership would be saying, you know what, I screwed up. We're going to go back to Donald Trump's border policies. I wish that she would do that. It would be good for all of us.
Governor, do you care to respond to any of those specific allegations, including that the vice president is, quote, letting in fentanyl and using kids as drug mules, among other things, regarding children?
The drug mule is not true, but I will say about this, about the fentanyl, because this is a crisis of this, the opioid crisis. And the good news on this is the last 12 months saw the largest decrease in opioid deaths in our nation's history, 30% decrease in Ohio, but there's still more work to do. But let's go back to this on immigration. Kamala Harris was the attorney general of the largest state and a border state in California. She's the only person in this race who prosecuted transnational gangs for human trafficking and drug interventions. But look, we all want to solve this. Most of us want to solve this, and that is the United States Congress. That's the Border Patrol agents. That's the Chamber of Commerce. That's most Americans out here. That's why we had the fairest and the toughest bill on immigration that this nation's seen. It was crafted by a conservative senator from Oklahoma, James Lankford. I know him. He's super conservative, but he's a man of principle, wants to get it done.
I hate when they try to pass a bill.
This piece of legislation.
They only talk about one element of it, like this part, but then they try to load it with a whole bunch of other crazy nonsense, and that's what gets voted against, and then they come back and say, you voted against this bill that would have done this and that for these people. And that's the political game that drives me nuts. I feel like a bill should only be relative,
Donald Trump said no,
or relevant to the particular topic without any of the extra fluff and crazy shit they try to slide in there.
But if we actually did something,
that's the part of politics that drives me nuts. And then it becomes a talking point.
You can't just do this through the executive branch. So look, we have the options to do this. Donald Trump had 4 years. He had 4 years to do this, and he promised you, America.
And both sides do it to each other. I just think that should not be a thing. I think it should just be abolished altogether.
Less than 2% of that wall got built, and Mexico didn't pay a dime. But here we are again, 9 years after he came down that escalator, dehumanizing people and telling them what he was going to do. As far as the deportation plan, at one point, Senator Vance said it was so unworkable to be laughable. So that's where we're at. Pass the bill, she'll sign it.
Governor, your time is up. Senator, the question was, will you separate parents from their children, even if their kids are U.S. citizens? You have 1 minute.
Margaret, my point is that we already have massive child separations thanks to Kamala Harris's open border. And I didn't accuse Kamala Harris of inviting drug mules. I said that she enabled the Mexican drug cartels to operate freely in this country. And we know that they use children as drug mules. And it
like, oh, well, it's not. I'm like, oh, yeah, okay.
Stop. But I think what Tim said just doesn't pass.
Yeah, you're probably right about that. All right.
3 years.
Point made.
Kamala Harris went out bragging that she was going to undo Donald Trump's border policy. She did exactly that. We had a record number of illegal crossings. We had a record number of fentanyl coming into our country. And now that she's running for president, or a few months before, she says that somehow she got religion and cared a lot about a piece of legislation. The only thing that she did when she became the vice president, when she became the appointed border czar, was to undo 94 Donald Trump executive actions that opened the border. This problem is leading to massive problems in the United States of America.
I really think there's something more to this immigration thing than just like trying to get new voters.
And it will when Donald Trump
I really think there's something more to it.
Is up,
I don't know what it is, though.
What
but
about
there's a
our
reason.
CBS News polling, which does show,
and I think it's a global reason. I don't think it's just about the U.S.
Support mass
There's something else to it.
Look, we fix this issue with a bill that is necessary, but the issue on this is what happens when you don't want to solve it. You demonize it. And we saw this. And Senator Vance, and it surprises me on this, talking about and saying, I will create stories to bring attention to this. That vilified a large number of people who were here legally in the community of Springfield. The Republican governor said, it's not true. Don't do it. There's consequences for this. There's consequences. We could come together. Senator Lankford did it. We could come together and solve this if we didn't let Donald Trump continue to make it an issue. And the consequences in Springfield were the governor had to send
Robert, I think you got to think bigger than that.
To escort kindergarten.
There's something going on a global scale and has since probably,
but by standing
for the last 10 years,
not working together to find
and it's just escalated
a talking point
and grown and sped up
like this. We dehumanize and villainize other human beings.
I think there's more to it.
Governor, your time is up. Senator, I'll give you 1 minute, but let me just ask you the question first.
Right.
The governor has made the point, and I think as a sitting lawmaker, you know that Congress controls the purse strings and any funding. So you have said repeatedly that Donald Trump would through executive action, solve this? Do you disagree that Congress controls the purse strings and would need to support many of the changes that you would actually want to implement? You have 1 minute.
Like, what does it mean to have millions of illegal, undocumented immigrants in the country as it relates to
borders? Or Kamala Harris has been
everything?
It's actually heartbreaking because the Border Patrol agents,
what would be the benefit
power to do their job
beyond just having people that they're basically saying, okay, now you can vote for us, but then you're gonna do this for us? Like, what is that? What is it that we're expecting of them?
Mexico, you've got to go back through.
And how is that a part of any
brought up the community of Springfield, and he's very worried
global
about the things that I've said in Springfield. Look, in Springfield, Ohio,
when I think about it, I think of like how does artificial intelligence play into that? What are they expecting? Like
that are overwhelmed.
Americans, documented Americans. What are we supposed to be doing as AI continues to take things over? And then we have all these immigrants that are coming in. What is their purpose expected to be? I know Nancy Pelosi has said something to the effect of like they're going to do all of the stuff that we don't want to do. Why won't we want to do it in a time especially where AI is taking so many jobs? And there's so much more to it. I haven't figured it out yet.
You have 1 minute to respond.
But I don't think it's just about voters.
It is law enforcement that asked for the bill. They helped craft it. They're the ones that supported it. That's because they know we need to do this. Look, this issue of continuing to bring this up, of not dealing with it, of blaming migrants for everything. On housing, we could talk a little bit about Wall Street speculators buying up housing and making them less affordable, but it becomes a blame. Look, this bill also gives the money necessary to adjudicate. I agree. It should not take 7 years for an asylum claim to be done. This bill gets it done in 90 days. Then you start to make a difference in this, and you start to adhere to what we know, American principles. Look, I don't talk about my faith a lot, but Matthew 25:40 talks about, to the least amongst us you do unto me. I think that's true of most Americans. They simply want order to it. This bill does it. It's funded. It's supported by the people who do it, and it lets us keep our dignity about how we treat other people.
Thank you, Governor. And just to clarify for our viewers, Springfield, Ohio does have a large number of Haitian migrants who have legal status, temporary protected status.
Well, Margaret, but
thank you, Senator. We have so much to get to.
Margaret, I think it's important because
we're going to turn now to the economy. Thank
Margaret,
you.
The rules were that you guys weren't going to fact check, and since you're fact checking me, I think it's important to say what's actually going on. So there's an application called the CBP One app where you can go on as an illegal migrant, apply for asylum or apply for parole, and be granted legal status at the wave of a Kamala Harris open border wand. That is not a person coming in, applying for a green card and waiting for 10 years. That is the facilitation of illegal immigration, Margaret, by our own leadership.
Thank you, Senator, for describing the legal process. We have so much to get to, Senator.
Those laws have been on the books since 1990.
Thank you, gentlemen.
The CBP One app has not been on the books since 1990. It's something that Kamala Harris created, Margaret.
Gentlemen, the audience can't hear you because your mics are cut.
We heard him.
So much we want to get to. Thank you for explaining the legal process.
Dang.
Nora.
Thank you, Margaret. The economy is a top concern for voters. Each of your campaigns has released an economic plan, so let's talk about the specifics. Governor Walz, Vice President Harris unveiled a plan that includes billions in tax credits for manufacturing, housing, and a renewed child tax credit. The Wharton School says your proposals will increase the nation's deficit by $1.2 trillion. How would you pay for that without ballooning the deficit? Governor,
increasing taxes on everyone, including the companies getting the credit.
I do believe in the middle class because that's where we come from. We both grew up in that. We understand. So those of you out there listening tonight, you're hearing a lot of stuff back and forth, and it's good. It's healthy. That's what this is supposed to happen. You should be listening. How's this going to impact me? The bold forward plan that Kamala Harris put out there is talking about this housing issue. The one thing is there's 3 million new houses proposed under this plan with down payment assistance on the front end to get you in a house. A house is much more than just an asset to be traded somewhere. It's foundational to where you're at. And then making sure that the things you buy every day, whether they be prescription drugs or other things, that there's fairness in that. Look, the $35 insulin is a good thing, but but it cost $5 to make insulin. They were charging $800 before this law went into effect. As far as the housing goes,
that's only for senior citizens. I'm pretty sure it's not for everybody that needs it.
Went down on rent.
They never say that, but it's just for seniors.
Sure, tax cuts go to the middle class. $6,000 child tax credit. We have one in Minnesota. Reduces childhood poverty by a third. We save money in the long run, and we do the right thing for families. And then getting businesses off the ground. The law as it stands right now is $5,000 tax credit for small business, increasing that to $50,000. Now, this is a philosophical difference between us. Donald Trump made a promise, and I'll give you this. He kept it. He took folks to Mar-a-Lago, said, you're rich as hell, I'm going to give you a tax cut. He gave the tax cuts that predominantly went to the top class. What happened there was an $8 trillion increase in the national debt, the largest ever. Now he's proposing...
But the illegals aren't buying houses. They're not getting mortgages to buy houses right now.
On everything we bring in. Everyone agrees, including businesses.
I think the problem is that a lot of people are leaving a lot of these other states and going to states that can't supply them the housing that they want.
Kamala Harris has said to do the things she wants to do, we'll just ask the wealthiest to pay their fair share. When you do that, our system works best, more people are participating in it, and folks have the things that they need.
Senator, I want to give you a moment to respond on that. But similarly, the Wharton School has done an analysis of the Trump plan and says it would increase the nation's deficit by $5.8 trillion. My question is the same for you. How do you pay for all that without ballooning the deficit? I'll give you 2 minutes.
Well, first of all, you're going to hear a lot from Tim Walz this evening, and you just heard it in the answer, a lot of what Kamala Harris proposes to do. And some of it, I'll be honest with you, it even sounds pretty good. Here's what you won't hear, is that Kamala Harris has already done it. Because she's been the vice president for 3.5 years. She had the opportunity to enact all of these great policies, and what she's actually done instead is drive the cost of food higher by 25%, drive the cost of housing higher by about 60%, open the American southern border and make middle-class life unaffordable for a large number of Americans. If Kamala Harris has such great plans for how to address middle-class problems, then she ought to do them now, not when asking for promotion, but in the job the American people gave her 3.5 years ago. And the fact that she isn't tells you a lot about how much you can trust her actual plans. Now, Donald Trump's economic plan is not just a plan, but it's also a record. A lot of those same economists attack Donald Trump's plan, and they have PhDs, but they don't have common sense and they don't have wisdom, because Donald Trump's economic policies delivered the highest take-home pay in a generation in this country, 1.5% inflation, and to boot, peace and security all over the world. So when people say that Donald Trump's economic plan doesn't make sense, I say, look at the record. He delivered rising take-home pay for American workers. Now, Tim admirably admits that they want to undo the Trump tax cuts. But if you look at what was so different about Donald Trump's tax cuts, even from previous Republican tax cut plans, is that a lot of those resources went to giving more take-home pay to middle-class and working-class Americans. It was passed in 2017, and you saw an American economic boom unlike we've seen in a generation in this country. That is a record that I'm proud to run on, and we're going to get back to that.
He's doing great. Honestly, I actually,
you can afford to
I don't particularly like him. Don't get it wrong, but I don't think Walz is doing too bad. This is easier to listen to than Trump and Kamala. Honestly, that was terrible.
Brings back common sense to this country.
Governor, do you want to respond to that?
I feel like you're at least talking about real things with real info.
Day one was
regardless of whether or not it's bullshit. It just sounds better.
We were already before COVID in a manufacturing recession, but 10 million people out of work, largest percentage since the Great Depression. 9 million jobs closed on that. That was day one. Whether it was the Infrastructure Act or other things we moved. Now, you made a question about experts, said this. I've made a note of this. Economists can't be trusted. Science can't be trusted. National security folks can't be trusted. Look, if you're going to be president, you don't have all the answers. Donald Trump believes he does. My pro tip of the day is this. If you need heart surgery, listen to the people at the Mayo Clinic in Rochester, Minnesota, not Donald Trump. And the same thing goes with this. And I ask you out there, teachers, nurses, truck drivers, or whatever, how is it fair that you're paying your taxes every year and Donald Trump hasn't paid any federal tax in the last 15 years, in the last year as president? That's what's wrong with the system. There's a way around it, and he's bragged about that. We're just asking for fairness in it, and that's all you want.
You have a minute.
Governor, you say
I know it just happened to me in the IRS
those
wasn't
same
fair
experts for
at
40
all.
years said that if we shipped our manufacturing base off to China, we'd get cheaper goods. They lied about that. They said if we shipped our industrial base off to other countries, to Mexico and elsewhere, it would make the middle class stronger. They were wrong about that. They were wrong about the idea that if we made America less self-reliant, less productive in our own nation, that it would somehow make us better off, and they were wrong about it. And for the first time in a generation, Donald Trump had the wisdom and the courage to say to that bipartisan consensus, we're not doing it anymore. We're bringing American manufacturing back. We're unleashing American energy. We're going to make more of our own stuff. And this isn't just an economic issue. I mean, I've got 3 beautiful little kids at home.
It wasn't a racist thing, and it wasn't made up.
They're in bed right now.
People all over the place, all over social media, and posting videos talking about everything, all of that going on.
Are manufactured by nations that hate us. This has to stop, and we're not going to stop it by listening to experts. We're going to stop it by listening to common sense wisdom, which is what Donald Trump governed on.
Senator, your time is up. Governor Walz, can you address that? I mean, voters say they trust Donald Trump on the economy more. Why?
Well, if you're listening tonight and you want billionaires to get tax cuts, you heard what the numbers were. Look.
But if none of the billionaires are paying taxes anyway, why are they so worried about tax cuts?
But I understand that, look, we produce soybeans and corn. We need to have fair trading partners. That's something that we believe.
We need more middle class tax cuts. That's what we need.
What concerns me on this is
we need to not be talking about taxing unrealized capital gains. How about that?
American history with China. So the rhetoric is good.
Because all that does is just, that's going to make it so that nobody can ever own a home, ever. We're all going to own nothing and be happy, as they say.
We had people undercutting the right to collectively bargain. We had right to work states made it more difficult. We had companies that were willing to ship it over.
We already pay property tax. It should be more than enough.
Folks that are venture capital in some cases, putting money into companies that were overseas. We're in agreement that we bring those home. The issue is Donald Trump is talking about it. Kamala Harris has a record, 250,000 more manufacturing jobs just out of the IRA.
May I respond to that?
Yes.
So appreciate that. So if you notice, what Governor Walz just did is he said, first of all,
I don't know who you are or what you're talking about, because it wasn't Vance that even said it. It was Trump during the debate.
No, that's generalization.
Did. So
just look it up on all over social media.
A tough job here because you've got to play whack-a-mole. You've got to pretend that Donald Trump didn't deliver rising take-home pay, which of course he did. You've got to pretend
unless you watch
didn't deliver lower
the MSNBC, they probably said that, and you're here in chat regurgitating it, but that's not the case.
Record, which has made gas, groceries, and housing unaffordable for American citizens. I was raised by a woman who would sometimes go into medical debt so that she could put food on the table in our household. I know what it's like to not be able to afford the things that you need to afford. We can do so much better. To all of you watching, we can get back to an America that's affordable again. We just got to get back to common sense economic principles.
I hope we have a conversation on health care then.
Senator, Governor.
Please.
Thank you. Margaret?
We have a lot to get to ahead, gentlemen, on many topics. But
I have never seen that or heard that anywhere.
Personal qualifications.
Link it in chat. Let me see it. I don't think that's true. And I'm going to be willing to bet it's something you didn't see with your own eyes.
We want to ask you about your leadership qualities. Governor Walz, you said you were in Hong Kong during the deadly Tiananmen Square protests in the spring
Give me the
of
link. I'd like to see that.
1989. But Minnesota Public Radio and other media outlets are reporting that you actually didn't travel to Asia until August of that year. Can you explain that?
I've seen at least 15 videos from people that live there crying, talking about everything that's going on, talking about that it was like, why is everybody laughing? Like it's a joke, it's serious, this is happening. They're showing pictures, videos, police reports, all kinds of shit. So if he said he made it up, I don't know why, because stuff has come out all over about that city.
My first year out, I got the opportunity in the summer of '89 to travel to China. 35 years ago, be able to do that. I came back home and then started a program to take young people there. We would take basketball teams, we would take baseball teams, we would take dancers, and we would go back and forth to China. The issue for that was to try and learn. Now, look, my community knows who I am. They saw where I was at. Look, I will be the first to tell you, I have poured my heart into my community. I've tried to do the best I can, but I've not been perfect. And I'm a knucklehead at times, but it's always been about that. Those same people elected me to Congress for 12 years. And in Congress, I was one of the most bipartisan people. working on things like farm bills that we got done, working on veterans benefits. And then the people of Minnesota were able to elect me to governor twice. So look, my commitment has been from the beginning to make sure that I'm there for the people, to make sure that I get this right. I will say,
I just looked it up on Grok.
Many times I will talk a lot.
You're
I
half right.
Up in the rhetoric. But being there, the impact it made, the difference it made in my life, I learned a lot about China. I hear the critiques of this. I would make the case that Donald Trump should have come on one of those trips with us. I guarantee you he wouldn't be praising Xi Jinping about COVID. And I guarantee you he wouldn't start a trade war that he ends up losing. So this is about trying to understand.
Basically, the story, the actual story was that they were taking the ducks and things out of the pond, and that they might have exaggerated into being cats and dogs to draw attention to what was actually happening in Springfield, but not that he made up the whole story, because there are police reports about the ducks.
Governor, just to follow up on that, the question was, can you explain?
But he's basically saying they talked about cats and dogs as the only way to get people's attention. So you're half right. I didn't know that, so thanks for pointing it out.
So I was in.
They didn't make up the story. They exaggerated it, and they replaced the animals.
And explained you then voted for Donald Trump in 2020.
What they did.
But the Washington
Instead of
Post
ducks and geese, they said cats and dogs.
Last week, in which you also disparaged Trump's economic record while he was president, writing to someone in 2020, quote, Trump thoroughly failed to deliver his economic populism. You're now his running mate, and you've shifted many of your policy stances to align with his. If you become,
you should also do some digging into everything that's been uncovered about Springfield since then, though, because of that. And I think that's what they're saying. That's their point.
And not just the advice he wants to hear. You have 2 minutes.
Well, first of all, Margaret, because I've always been open. And sometimes, of course, I've disagreed with the president, but I've also been extremely open about the fact that I was wrong about Donald Trump. I was wrong, first of all, because I believed some of the media stories that turned out to be dishonest fabrications of his record. But most importantly, Donald Trump delivered for the American people. Rising wages, rising take-home pay, an economy that worked for normal Americans, a secure southern border, a lot of things, frankly, that I didn't think he'd be able to deliver on. And yeah, when you screw up, when you misspeak, when you get something wrong and you change your mind, you ought to be honest with the American people about it. It's one of the reasons, Margaret, why I've done so many interviews, is because I think it's important to actually explain to the American people where I come down on the issues and what changed. Now, you pointed out to messages from 2020. Margaret, I've been extremely consistent that I think there were a lot of things that we could have done better in the Trump administration the first round if Congress was doing its job. I strongly believe, and I've been a United States senator, that Congress is not just a high-class debating society. It's not just a forum for senators and congressmen to whine about problems. It's a forum to govern. So there were a lot of things on the border, on tariffs, for example, where I think that we could have done so much more if the Republican Congress and the Democrats in Congress had been a little bit better about how they govern the country. They were so obsessed with impeaching Donald Trump, they couldn't actually govern. And I want to talk about this tariff issue in particular, Margaret, because Tim just accused this of being a national sales tax. Look, the one thing, and you're probably surprised to hear me praising Joe Biden, but the one thing that Joe Biden did is he continued some of the Trump tariffs that protected American manufacturing jobs. And it's the one issue, the most pro-worker part of the Biden administration, it's the one issue where Kamala Harris has run away from Joe Biden's record. Think about this. If you're trying to employ slave laborers in China at $3 a day, you're going to do that and undercut the wages of American workers unless our country stands up for itself and says, you're not accessing our markets unless you're paying middle-class Americans a fair wage.
Senator, your time is up. Nora?
Thank you. Now to the issue of reproductive rights. Governor Walz, after Roe versus Wade was overturned, you signed a bill into law that made Minnesota one of the least restrictive states in the nation when it comes to abortion. Former President Trump said in the last debate that you believe abortion, quote, in the 9th month is absolutely
I saw the video.
Fine. Yes or no? Is that what you support? I'll give you 2 minutes.
That's not what the bill says. But look, this issue is what's on everyone's mind. Donald Trump put this all into motion. He brags about how great it was that he put the judges in and overturned Roe versus Wade. 52 years of personal autonomy.
I'm so tired of hearing about this.
And then he tells us, oh, we send it to the states. It's a beautiful thing. Amanda Zaworski would disagree with you on it's a beautiful thing.
This is the emotionally triggering thing.
Texas, waiting for their child at 18 weeks.
It's like
she has a complication, a tear in the membrane.
Let it go at this point. What's done is done.
At that point, needs to be decided by the doctor. And that would have been an abortion. But in Texas, that would have put them in legal jeopardy. She went home, got sepsis, nearly dies, and now she may have difficulty.
Do you know why they're so pro-abortion? It's another form of population control.
A 12-year-old
you guys should check out the book Freakonomics.
By her stepfather.
Talks all about the statistics,
Those are horrific.
especially in major cities, and why abortion is such a big deal in major cities. Because generally speaking, the families that are having the abortions need them because they are not able to provide for the children, and then those children grow up in the lives of crime. And so there's so much more to it than just like my body, my choice. It's an economic decision.
Is going to have a
and so you have like
pregnancies.
There's just so much more to that whole equation. I'm just so sick of hearing about it.
And limit access, if not eliminate access to infertility treatments. For so many of you out there listening, me included, infertility treatments are why I have a child.
If you look at everything one side
business
of the group does, if you think about it all as a form of control and decreasing population, so many things will make more sense.
That's not how this works. This is basic human right. We have seen maternal
Maybe they're letting all of the criminals in because we have terrible food.
Countries in the world.
And they're like,
this is about health care.
Hey, let them go eat American food for 10 years. We don't have to worry about them anymore.
Senator, do you want to respond?
I'm joking.
Will you create a federal pregnancy monitoring agency?
No, Nora, certainly we won't. And I want to talk about this issue because I know a lot of Americans care about it, and I know a lot of Americans don't agree with everything that I've ever said on this topic. And, you know, I grew up in a working class family in a neighborhood where I knew a lot of young women who had unplanned pregnancies and decided to terminate those pregnancies because they feel like they didn't have any other options. And, you know, one of them is actually very dear to me. And I know she's watching tonight, and I love you. And she told me something a couple years ago that she felt like if she hadn't had that abortion, that it would have destroyed her life because she was in an abusive relationship. And I think that what I take from that as a Republican who proudly wants to protect innocent life in this country, who proudly wants to protect the vulnerable, is that my party, we've got to do so much better of a job at earning the American people's trust back on this issue where they frankly just don't trust us. And I think that's one of the things that Donald Trump and I are endeavoring to do. I want us as a Republican Party to be pro-family in the fullest sense of the word.
There was a time where I thought Trump might be controlled opposition.
For moms,
but once they started shooting at him, I'm like, I don't know about that anymore.
Families to afford a home, so they can afford a place to raise that family. And I think there's so much that we can do on the public policy front. I
think if there's ever been a political outlier in my generation, it's Trump. He's not a politician.
On the abortion policy specifically,
he's going against the grain of all the corporate interests.
And it's
not all, but most.
Has a different viewpoint on this.
He's just
Georgia has a different.
He's not a member of the club of either side, really. He's just a complete outlier who's not playing the game by their rules, and they do not want him in there no matter what.
Make their abortion policy, and I think that's what makes the most sense.
Most politicians will go tit for tat with you.
Let's be honest. Sometimes
I'll give you this, you give me that. Always wheeling and dealing. And I think Trump just came in there, took a huge shit on everybody, and they're just like, you gotta go.
The question got asked, and Donald Trump made the accusation that wasn't true about Minnesota. Well, let me tell you about this idea that there's diverse states. There's a young woman named Amber Thurman. She happened to be
totally agree, Eric. This is much more pleasant.
Because of that, she had to travel a long distance to North Carolina.
I'm not going to lie. I don't like listening to Trump.
Her care.
I really don't. I don't like listening to him talk. He repeats himself. Just don't talk about it. Let other people talk about it. Let JD talk for you. Like Waltz is a hell of a lot better speaker than Kamala. Like Kamala should just
what's happening. His run.
I don't know, fake an illness and pull herself out at the last minute, and like I don't know.
He mentioned it was.
I don't think I could handle 4 years listening to that woman cackle about shit. She has no idea what she's talking about.
Abortion after 15 weeks. In fact, you said if someone can't support legislation like that, quote, you are making the United States the most barbaric pro-abortion regime anywhere in the entire world. My question is, why have you changed your position?
Well, Nora, first of all, I never supported a national ban. I did when I was running for Senate in 2022 talk about setting some minimum national standard. For example, we have a partial birth abortion ban in place in this country at the federal level. I don't think anybody's trying to get rid of that, or at least I hope not, though I know that Democrats have taken a very radical pro-abortion stance. But Nora, you know, one of the things that changed is in the state of Ohio, we had a referendum in 2023, and the people of Ohio voted overwhelmingly. By the way, way, against my position. And I think that what I learned from that, Nora, is that we've got to do a better job at winning back people's trust. So many young women would love to have families. So many young women also see an unplanned pregnancy as something that's going to destroy their livelihood, destroy their education, destroy their relationships. And we have got to earn people's trust back. And that's why Donald Trump and I are committed to pursuing pro-family policies, making childcare more accessible, making fertility treatments more accessible, because we've got to do a better job at that. And that's what real leadership is.
Governor, your response.
Well, I'm going to respond on the pro-abortion piece of that. No, we're not. We're pro-women. We're pro-freedom to make your own choice. We know what the implications are to not be that. Women having miscarriages, women not getting the care, physicians feeling like they may be prosecuted for providing that care. And as far as making sure that we're educating our children and giving them options, Minnesota's a state with one of the lowest teen pregnancy rates. We understand that, too. We know that the options need to be available, and we make that true. We also make it, we're a top 3 state for the best place to raise children.
Totally agree,
these two things to try and
I totally agree with that.
We're
Everything is intentionally divisive because you've got to be a part of one or the other. And I think the entire two-party system altogether is garbage.
And we're going, and Kamala Harris is making the case.
It's all control, man. It's all control.
$6,000 child tax credit, but we're not going to base that on the backs of making someone like Amber Thurman drive 600 miles to try and get health care.
Senator?
May I respond to that? First of all, Governor, I agree with you. Amber Thurman should still be alive, and there are a lot of people who should still be alive, and I certainly wish that she was. And maybe you're free to disagree with me on this and explain this to me, but as I read the Minnesota law that you signed into law, the statute that you signed into law, it says that a doctor who presides over an abortion where the baby survives, the doctor is under no obligation to provide life-saving care to a baby who survives a botched late-term abortion. That is, I think, whether you're pro-choice or pro-abortion, that is fundamentally barbaric.
So they should fact-check this. Is it true or not?
Is because some of what
says it is, one says it's not. Where's the fact check now?
Abortions against their will, because Kamala Harris has supported suing Catholic nuns to violate their freedom of conscience. We can be a big and diverse country where we respect people's freedom of conscience and make the country more pro-baby and pro-family. But please.
Yes, Governor, please respond.
Look, this is one where there's always something there. This is a very simple proposition. These are women's decisions to make about their healthcare decisions, and the physicians who know best when they need to do this. Trying to distort
on both sides. If we're going to do it, we need to do it to everybody, not just one or the other.
What was I wrong about, Governor? Please tell me. What was I wrong about?
That is not the way the law is written. Look,
how's it written then?
I've given this advice on a lot of things, that getting involved, getting against, that's been misread, and it was fact-checked at the last debate. But the point on this is there's a continuation of these guys to try and tell women or to get involved. I use this line on this, just mind your own business on this. Things worked best when Roe versus Wade was in place. When we do a restoration of Roe, that works best. That doesn't preclude us from increasing funding for children. It doesn't increase us from making sure that once that child's born, like in Minnesota, they get meals, they get early childhood education, they get health care. So the hiding behind we're going to do all these other things when you're not proposing them in your budget. Kamala Harris is proposing them. She's proposing all those things to make life easier for families.
I asked a specific question, Governor. You gave me a slogan as a response.
It's not the case. It's not true. That's not what the law says. So they fact-checked it with President Trump.
Gentlemen, there's a lot to discuss. We have to move on, and we're going to be right back with much more of the CBS News vice presidential debate in just a moment.
All right, guys, I'm going to go ahead and call it. Let you guys go back to your lives. I don't even know how long these debates go, so I figure, what's happening to Bitcoin as this is going on? It's getting a little bit more of an uptick. All right. Yeah, listen, I just, the divisiveness of politics overall to me is just, it's a loser's game. I mean, and the people that lose are always us. It's really never the politicians. And, personally, I've read books on technocracy, and I've read books on Marxism. I've read books on all kinds of stuff. Well, nowadays I listen to books. I don't read anymore. It's hard to see, but I really wish the people, all of us, like I've seen obviously some guys that don't like Trump in chat, and it's cool. I'm not like get rid of them or whatever. I believe everybody, we have our own opinions, and that's okay. We have our own perceptions and things, but I really do believe that we have to figure out some kind of way to stop letting everyone divide us and keep us from talking to one another. We can have differences of opinion or differences of ideas or whatever. That's fine, but we have to be able to communicate those differences in a positive, meaningful way. And, you know, if every debate or like that debate has been going pretty well, I'm like, you know what, that's a good debate. I'm going to probably listen to the rest of it at some point, because it's like, they're both speaking. They're not just grunting, and they're not just repeating themselves over and over. And they're not just, being difficult. They're being polite to one another, mutual respect and all that. That's the kind of presidential debate. We didn't have that with Biden. We didn't have that with Kamala at all. Why is it just these guys are having like an actual debate where they're discussing things, and it's more of like a flow of conversation instead of you repeat this line, you repeat yourself, you repeat this line, you say this, you repeat yourself. And it's just like, that's not a debate to me. I don't know what the hell's going on, but I'm so over it. And they always take advantage of these really politically divisive questions. And to me, it's simple. Why was everything so much better at this time? Why is everything 1,000 times worse now? And how are we going to fix it? That's it. Like, everything else is just emotionally triggering bullshit to just muck the waters up so that, people get confused and are like, yeah, that's an issue that means a lot to me. I don't give a shit if I'm spending $30 on eggs. It's just like, come on. Like, we really need a hard reset. And I don't mean the great reset. I just think that it's like, man, everything has just gone so bad. I mean, globally. And, if you want to know what the future of the United States will look like under a particular regime, look at the states that they control already. That's the way I look at it. But anyway, yeah, I say that all the time. Can we just return to the 90s? The 80s, 90s? Hell, even 2000. I mean, it's just like, yeah, it just, I get super upset, and I'm super concerned. I am genuinely super concerned, because realistically, man, I don't think it's going to matter. I don't think it's going to matter much which of these two people end up in office. I think it's going to be absolute chaos regardless, because either side is going to be pissed. I'm in Australia, but pay attention to U.S. politics because it affects us all. Here, if you look at our parliament, a lot of memes aren't from the main two parties. It's more civil here, not perfect, but civil. Dude, I mean, I'm a little familiar with what kind of craziness has been going on in Australia and Canada, and all of the liberal leadership in these countries are all alumni from the World Economic Forum, and there's a much bigger thing going on than I think most citizens understand, because let's be real about it. Who has the time to read or research any of it? It's honestly one of the reasons why I put a lot of that stuff on the audio files, because that way you can listen to these reports in a conversational format. So if you haven't yet, you might want to check it out. If you could just go to the main channel here and then look down, there's a link to the audio files. It's AI audio files. How bad was it when we wish Bill Clinton was back in office? You know what? That's funny. I never even really started paying much attention to politics I was always reading and researching things, but more like history. And man, I tell you what, there's so much stuff that I would love to discuss about history and how it relates to what's going on now. But I know I can't. Nowadays, you can't speak freely. You just can't talk about certain things freely without being penalized, censored, shut down, canceled. Like, it's all just gone bizarre. It's gone bonkers, man. And it's just like, unfortunately, we don't have enough people nowadays that want to actually dive beyond the memes or dive beyond the headlines. The thing is that the people that are putting that shit out there know it. And so it is what it is. Canadian and Thailand here. I'd love to go to Thailand, but it's just too long a flight. I would love to train for like a month in Thailand. I've always wanted to do that. A friend of mine travels literally all over the world, man. And he's coolest dude ever. He's always at peace, always so happy. This is going to sound funny, but he's actually an international male stripper. But he's cool as hell, but he also has a coffee company. And he travels to all these, he's been to like 105 countries now. And he just learns the culture, learns everything, and then he works out these deals he basically has a coffee service. And you subscribe, and he you know what? Let me see if I can find it. I can't remember. I'm gonna have to pull it up real quick. I'm gonna show you guys. I'll have him on at some point. But hold on, I'm going to show you because it's actually a pretty cool idea. And yeah, cafe. It's KAFE.CAFE. But anyway, but he goes to all these different countries, man, and then they put these packages together where you just like every month. I don't make anything. I'm not promoting this because I'm making anything. I'm not an affiliate or anything. He's just a friend of mine. He's cool as shit. Colombian, Mexican, Puerto Rican, Brazilian, Costa Rican. But his wife is shit. I can't remember if she's Brazilian or I can't remember. Oh my God, he's gonna kill me. I think she's Colombian. She's a firecracker. But yeah, man, like it's like he travels all over the world, man. We talk about some of this stuff all the time, and he's definitely like a more free-spirited kind of dude. And but yeah, he's always giving me coffee and shit all the time. So I have coffee from all over the world. He hasn't given me any Kopi Luwak yet, though. I know that. But yeah, so anyway, I don't even remember why. Oh yeah, Thailand. That's right. Cause he was trying to tell me, he's like, I'm taking you to Thailand, man. You're going to go to Thailand. We're going to plan a trip. I'm like, dude, I cannot be on a plane that daggone long, dude. I just can't do it. So Crow, the world has always been like this for a long time. We are only seeing it now with the internet. You know what? You're right. That's what my wife says all the time. She's like, who's to say that it hasn't been this way forever? It's just now because of the access we have to what's, this opinion, this person, social media, the way everything works, we all know. It's like the veil has been pulled back. Listen, you can say what you want, but since 2020, I guarantee each and every one of us has a much more deeper political interest than we ever had before, because now it's exposed. We see more of what is happening and how things work and what one side is capable of and the other side is capable of. And it's just nasty, man. I mean, lobbying, I've always considered lobbying to just be legalized bribery, personally. I feel like everything kind of operates in this way that, I don't know, man. I don't think there should be such a thing as career politicians. I think anybody that goes into office should have no more than a 8-year term. I don't think Congress should be able to vote in their own raises. I think it should be based on performance like any other company would. Just so many things have just gotten so corrupt, and it's like, it's just bad. It's just bad. And now, because of the money, it's like, who spends $500 million or $1 billion to run for a job that pays $400,000 a year? Make that make sense. You know what I mean? Like, how does a career politician that makes $80,000 a year end up worth $100 million? But anyway, it is what it is. I always thought I would love to run for politics in some form and try and make a big difference, try and help, but I just don't think I would last, honestly. People are like, Crow for president. And I'm like, you know what? I wouldn't survive it. They would come after me because I would base everything based on logic in my heart and what I thought was right. And I'm just sure that wouldn't fly with anybody, because that's just not how politics works. So, yeah, anyway. All right, guys, how long have I been live? 2 hours. I've been hanging out for 2 hours with you guys. I deleted my social media a year ago, started therapy too at 33 for the first time, and it's changed my life. I hate the hate online, man, which is why I watch your channel so much. Keep it up, mate. Dude, thank you, man. I love everybody. I really do. I love everybody. I I wholeheartedly wish we could all just get along and stop the bullshit. I do. I have liberal friends. I have conservative friends. I have libertarian friends. I have friends that aren't political at all. They just want to live their life and be left the frick alone. Like, I don't judge anybody for their politics or any of that, man. I judge everybody based off of how you treat me and how you treat people that don't matter to you. That to me is like a big thing. You know, it's like if I'm out or I'm meeting somebody or whatever, and they're like shitty to servers and they're like cocky or arrogant, or they're just like, they talk down. I'm like, fuck off. You're not my people, man. Like, go away. Because I really do believe that like character is like how you treat people that can't do something for you. You know what I mean? And it's just like, I don't know, especially as I'm old, you get older and you just start seeing the value in things and what means more in the long term. And left or right, it doesn't matter. We're all in this shit together. It's true. And only Ada will save us. Yeah. Well, you know, I'd love to see that. I mean, I don't know. I'd love to think that we'll find a peace at some point, that we will, that we'll all, you know what my fear is? I'm going to give you my fear and then I'm going to let everybody go. My fear is that we have to go through something so traumatic on such a large scale that it's not until then that we all realize that we really do need each other. And that it's like this division that has been created to separate so many of us and really keep us from being able to speak openly and honestly and be able to understand and consider what other people think and feel. You know, it's like both sides, we're all caught up in our own echo chambers. And it's just like we think we're so right all the time about everything that we just don't even want to see or hear a perspective that's different than ours. And we've all gotten so arrogant in that, myself included, right? And it's just like people are not willing to listen to somebody else about anything else. And it's like that division is going to be what creates our downfall. And if you look at everything that's going on today, politically, economically, you name it, and then go back to look at what happened to ancient Rome, you're going to realize the number of similarities there were. And if you listen to people like Ray Dalio, or you want to check out his book, what was it called? Not the Fourth Turing. It might have been the Fourth Turing. Oh shit. I actually have it on my bookshelf, but I can't see it because I got this monitor in my face. But Ray Dalio came out with a book. And if you listen to that book, he talks about some of it. It's a thick book though. Listen to it. Don't try to read it. But he talks about, you know, what, like when societies are at their end, you know, when like shit is about to go through major transitions for whatever reason, we go through all of the social things that are happening today, all of the things that don't make sense to a normal, logical person, or that isn't playing an active role in it. And you're just like, what is going on? None of this makes sense. Why is the world going crazy? It's because we're about to go through a major paradigm shift in how we live. And it's everything from the top down, which is one of the things where you go into crypto, CBDCs, the way the economics are going to change, the housing market, all these things are just kind of like waiting to do something. And I think it's going to catch a lot of people by surprise. And, you know, if you think about everything that's going on now and you think about the grand schemes, the grand plans, everything's leading into this 2030 Great Reset type scenario. You know, who's likely to set that agenda back quite a bit? And I think we all know who that is and why everybody's rallying against him, because they don't realize what the overall plan is and how all of this stuff is laid out. And you've got somebody who's just basically an arrogant dude who's like, I'm not down with this. It is what it is. Folks, have a great evening. Thanks for hanging out with me for a couple hours. Hopefully you learned a little bit of something. If not, maybe you just had fun listening to a giant ogre talk for a little bit on the interwebs. So until